We have our imported Photoshop file in here that I've created in layers. And now we're going to start animating inside of Anime Studio Pro to create some effects to indicate there's other things going on in the scene we can't see. The first thing we'll do is create the appearance of a neon sign outside. We're not actually going to show the sign, but people have seen enough kind of film noir or old films to know that cheap motels have these flashing neon signs that you can hear with a little buzz. That's something that the audio engineer could sweeten in this afterwards. And we're going to make it appear or seem like it's off to the left here a little bit. So we're going to create this kind of red-orange glow that goes on and off that they could attach a little buzz to with the audio to let you know that's what's going on. We also want to create a little heightened red edge along here that would indicate that, yeah, the sign light is right here and it's immediately illuminating this. And you know what? It's kind of annoying. The other thing I want to do real quickly is to add a nighttime sky back here to help cement the fact visually that this is going to be late at night. What we're seeing is the background, which right now is just kind of this white color in here. So I'm going to come down to the layers here, double click on that, and simply rename the sky. Now as I go through this, we're kind of assembling a bunch of techniques that we've learned earlier on in this tutorial. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into how each technique works. Rather, we're going to take this section and look at it as, here's how you apply the techniques. Okay, let's get going with the neon sign. I want this neon sign to occur in front of the across street so that when we create the effect, it obscures this just a little bit and helps us see that sense of depth. But first, I'm going to go ahead and create the sky here on this vector layer. Let's come over and choose my shapes. I'm just going to do a rectangle and draw it up here about, I'll make it a little bit larger in case I move that background around. And I've been working earlier with a gradient and I haven't restarted the program. So that last item that I had going in there is exactly what filled in, but that's a little too light. I'm going to want it darker than that, I think. Let me come down to my shape select tool, select that. I'll turn off the stroke. Let's take a look at this gradient here and make this a little bit darker, like so. And I may want to actually pull this down just a little bit. Bring this up so we can see that, and okay. I can see I've got my gradient tool here. I'll right click and drag this down a little bit, but I'm holding the shift key to constrain this gradient so that it occurs right there. Click off this object. Now it's a little bit of a too harsh type of break there, so let me go ahead and darken this up just a little. I need it light enough to see our police or law enforcement character back there, so I can't make it too much darker, but that banding is just a little too hard right there. So let's go ahead and select this, make this a little bit darker, kind of keeping it maybe in the neutral category here. Choose OK. That looks better here. Let's see how it looks in our scene. Okay, like the look of that. That's giving us a nice nighttime scene look there. Okay, first part of getting this neon built is to create another vector layer. So I'll do that. And we'll call this neon outside. And we'll probably have a neon inside to capture this inside one. Then we can group that into its own group. So what I will do is simply go ahead and draw another shape. Let me go ahead and reset this before I do that. And I'll draw this shape about right here. I don't need a border on it, so I'm going to select the shape tool, highlight that, turn off the stroke. I also need to bring this in front of the across street. Now, as I bring it in, we see that the shape has scaled itself, and that's because I started drawing that outside of this layer, the room build, which I scaled to match our scene a little bit. So let me go ahead and move this around, and that will be the case of working. You know, you don't have to keep everything in a group here. I like being able to close things up, and if I start doing something outside of this group here, I want to be able to close everything that's going to be in the group, so I'm going to keep it there right now. But let me go ahead and enlarge this a little bit. That is white. I'm going to turn it to an orange red or something like that. Maybe right here. That may not be red enough. That's a little too pink. I'm going to go with that. And we'll leave it as such. With that neon outside done, what I'm going to do is double click on this layer. We'll come over to General, Blur Radius. And since this is in a layer that's been compressed down, The scale compensation's on for the entire layer. On this one, let's see if I can get away. I think I'm going to have to use a value of something like about 6 to make this a little bit blurry here, and I don't believe there's any way for me to see that. Go ahead and move this over here. Click Apply, OK. Click off the shape here real quickly. Not seeing it. Let's see how it renders up real quick. We'll do a preview render. Soft edge, I want it softer than that, and obviously that's a little too hot, so we're going to go ahead and fix that real easily here. But let me double click this layer again, and let me give this a value of something like 30. And what I will do now is change the opacity of this layer down to something more like 20%. And choose OK. That fades a little bit. Do a quick test render here. You're starting to see a little bit of this glow that is covering up there. I may want to make this a little more dense. Something like opacity of 30%. And let's come down here to layer blending and turn this on to screen and choose OK. Now render goes ahead and has this kind of illuminated effect. So we'll go ahead and tune this up and get it ready to cycle in our next tutorial.